Malar, good evening.
I even
Wait,
forgot to introduce myself. Good evening, Sham. Welcome to the show. How can I help you?
okay, I think you got your roles a little bit mixed up right now. Were you doing a customer service program just before you came in? Okay. or no?
You would you know what was the program I'm coming from?
Okay,
Mind,
you tell me later.
mindfulness at work.
Okay, well done. um, Well, I have something to say about that, but never mind. We'll keep that to the end because we started a little bit late, ladies and gentlemen, today because we're making sure that things were good on the back end before we started. Welcome, everyone. This is Leadership in Flow Asia, Season 3. And today we get to explore the topic of community engagement for the well-being of the nation. So we're going a bit big today. We're not looking at it from a mid to micro level. We're looking at it at the national level, okay, or a society level. Um, and we're going to talk a little bit about, we'll be exploring a little bit the world of recidivism, okay? What essentially it means is reoffending. So we're going into the world of prisons and uh, prisoners, and we're going to be talking to someone who talks, whose life's purpose and meaning is about making the world a better place, not just for us, but for prisoners as well. Now, this idea of recidivism or reoffending, I'm just going to say reoffending. Haven't got my words, my tongue around it. I was doing a little bit of research, Muller. It's 22% in Singapore. Okay, it's 17.06% in Malaysia. So what it means is it's within a period of 2 years. What's the rate of released prisoners who reoffend? In Singapore, it's mainly in the drug trafficking area. All right, that's the crime that's in. Malaysia is a little bit more wider. Okay, now when you think about reoffending, the idea of rehabilitation at prisons, you're looking at how what is a prison's objective. To me, what was a prison's objective? Is it to punish, or is it to bring people back to society? And and if you think about it, there are there are two things to consider. One is a psychological aspect, the other is a systemic aspect, right? And when you think about the systemic aspect, you have what's the focus of the system? How does the family, how do we support the family? How do we support, how does society support these people? Okay. So we are talking about big stuff. We're talking about the well-being of a nation and how the well-being of the nation means taking care of those who are unfortunate and unfortunate in different ways. And therefore, you brought to us our guest for this week. Okay. And I think it was inspired, all of this has been inspired by your meeting with that guy in Aston, in Changi Terminal 3. I was right, huh? My guess is correct, huh?
Actually, I more than inspiration. So a little side story. Poor Stanley is waiting, but I think it's worth the story.
Hmm.
I saw when I met Shanta, who introduced me to the work of PFM. And before
Hmm.
that, I had met Karim at the Singapore Changi Airport, and he told me his story, and I had posted it. I was just thinking because when I met Karim, I was so inspired by his gratitude of having another chance. Right, I was just so
Hmm.
inspired by his courage, and I wrote about it. But when I met
Yep.
Shanta, I really not felt, believe that God wanted me to meet Karim first.
Ah,
So
okay.
that's what I felt. So it's like literally for me, it's like, oh, that's why God made me meet Karim because I felt very inspired. And when Shanta introduced me to the work of PFM, and we were just chatting, right? There was no agenda. I just happened to meet our friend Anita, who was telling me about
Hmm.
Shanta, who's working with PFM. And when she told me the story, my immediate thing is this is not an accident. I have to. do my part. It's just
Mm.
really as simple as more than inspiration. I think the way the dots were connected, I want to believe that it is from upstairs.
Okay. All right.
So better do this properly and do justice and bring Stanley up.
Okay, you bring Selena because okay, yeah. If not, you have to go for confession. Okay, different thing. That's a different issue.
Yeah, don't use words that you don't understand, which is confession. But let's introduce our dearest Stanley from Prison Fellowship Malaysia. Welcome to the show. Thank you for saying yes.
Thank you, Malar. Thank
Because
you, Shakti, for giving me the opportunity this evening here.
thank you.
You're welcome.
You know, the problem with people who do beautiful, humbling work that is really required for the world, I'm talking with the Stanleys of the world. They are so shy to come out and talk about the work, right? Because on one hand, you have to do work, right? A meaningful work. On the other hand, you're called to be humble, right? And so it took quite a bit of coaxing to get Stanley here. So thank you very much for saying yes to us. It's really been inspiring to listen to the stories and the work that you do. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Very good. So
You
Shyam,
want to
let's.
start the? You want to get the
No,
ball rolling with the first question?
you can go in. You can have a go at Stanley.
Huh? I have a go at Stanley. Oh, please.
Yeah, let's
Okay,
find out
don't say
what
things like
questions
this
you have.
trigger
Huh?
our the well-being of our guests. Okay. All right.
Well, okay,
Stanley.
I'll go first.
Okay. You
I'll go.
go first. Yes.
Sorry.
Go
So
first.
one of those things I was very, very curious about, because you come from the corporate world and you've been with PFM for 9 years, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you just maybe tell us a little bit about you as to what attracted you to the work of Prison Fellowship Malaysia, right? And what keeps you in this job for 9 years?
Oh, okay. Thank you. Prison Fellowship Malaysia. 9 years ago, I just happened to be in the right place at the right time when I heard a call about serving in prison areas. And at that point of time, as I listened to it, it really sort of worked in my heart, and I responded to that. I responded to that 9 years ago, uh, and it was a great opportunity to be able to make a difference, in the lives of people who have been incarcerated, to lead them to a journey of transformation, to empower them in some way so that they can take a journey back to life, to families, and to societies. And I think over the years, that is what has kept me going, that we all can play a small part in this, that nobody is without hope. No one is without hope. And hope is available for every person. Opportunities are there. You can turn around. You can make it work. And just to give that kind of hope to people, it is quite challenging, very fulfilling. And I kept on going. And through the years, there have been many stories of success, or not say success in that sense, but to see a change in people, continue to keep us going. That hey, we keep on. That's how I'm here for 9 years now. That's a basic overview.
Nice, nice. Thank you very much. Yeah. So I mean, it's interesting that you said you were attracted to the work, right? I mean, you were called, you were attracted to the work. Just prior to this, right, Sham, I've heard of the work of prison ministry, right? That's what I've heard.
Mm,
My good
mm,
friend Elizabeth, right? She's got polio, so she can't walk very well. What she does is she volunteers and goes to prison ministry to do work regularly, and she tells me, so I've walked with her in spirit, because she tells me how she walks through the walls that's dark
mm, mm,
and how she meets people. And she'll say she dreads going, and every time she come back, she said, actually, I thought I was inspiring them, but they inspired me. So I've always been attracted and inspired by the work that Alice does, right? But
mm.
when you say when you were first called, right? So do you remember what was your first impression when you actually went to the prison, Stan?
Well, I think when I walked in, I had a lot of feelings in front of me. I've never been to that prison. I wouldn't know what was I supposed to do, how was going to be the reaction, and you got all these kind of things inside. A little bit of fear, of course, going into the prison. But as you walked in there and you looked at them, and I think you see them as who they really are, beside whatever they have done. That they are actually a human being, a human being. And when it comes to that, then you see them differently. There are people there who have made wrong choices, many reasons for them to be there, but they are somebody's son, they are somebody's husband, they are somebody's father. And to look at them like that, some compassion flows in us for them. That's how I saw it. And after that, over time, the fear began to subside. It began to be a very good time for me to connect with them in some ways, here and there, hear their stories, and bring hope to them again, bring hope to them. And so it has been over time, it became an enjoyable experience of walking in, because we bring a light in darkness, to say that, hey, there is hope for you. It was a wonderful, and to see faces smiling, to see faces believing it. I mean, it's quite very fulfilling in that journey over the years for us. That's what I think keeps me and all our volunteers to do the same. That's it, walk in there. I represent all the volunteers, some of 500 plus in Malaysia, and this is what they do. They enjoy going here. We enjoy our time there.
Nice. Now, so what I heard from you is that, so you heard the call, okay, you visited, and you said, I asked you what's your first impression. Even though you didn't use the word fear, you did start off with, okay, you meet people, you feel compassionate, and your fear sort of went away. So obviously there was some fear, which is like it. I believe it's something everybody has, right? Anxiety about the unknown world is number one. I think the other one is, I think we have a lot of perceptions, and definitely negative perceptions, right? So if I may ask you, right, what is the greatest fear you had to overcome to allow your compassion to surface, to continue serving this group of people for 9 years?
I think it's not about something to overcome. I think when I saw them and understand them, I think once compassion comes, fear sort of subsides. I really didn't do anything about fear in that sense. I think once love comes in and compassion comes in, it just subsides automatically. I didn't really struggle after that of I have to overcome fear kind of a thing. No, I didn't. It was like an automatic thing for me that, hey, they're just human beings like us. They have families, they have homes, and that kind of thing. And I think fear just subsided automatically. I really didn't struggle to overcome fear in that sense. No. That's from my experience. I'm not sure for the others, but I think generally everybody flows in that way.
Compassion ate fear up in this case. So thank you very, very much. Compassion eats up fear. I think I like that. Thank you.
Compassion had fear for breakfast.
Oh my! What did I miss?
Yeah.
I've got a few people online who like to say hello. So let's just do that first. Give Stanley some breathing space. Major Dr. Prabhakaran says, thank you very much, Stanley and team PFM. I just visited the PFM website. Simply amazing work. Your initiative to transform and empower these people is inspiring. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Major was one of our guests in our show this year. I hope it was this year because it all kind of blends in. Louis Mariah says, hello, people. It's been a while. Yes, Louis, it's been a while. And great to see you guys going strong. Yep, thank you. Let's get into PFM a little bit more, Stanley. Tell us a little bit about, when when we had the pre-meet, you said, you talked to us about the work that you do. And so tell us about PFM and the three pillars that you focus on, right? You talked about the prison care, aftercare, and family care, right? Tell us more about it. I'm sure our audience would love to know a little bit more.
All right. So Prison Fellowship Malaysia is actually an affiliated charter member of Prison Fellowship International. Prison Fellowship International has a global base in nearly about 120 nations. We have about 64,000 volunteers all over the world. This initiative was started by the late Chuck Colson. I'm not sure how many of you can remember him. He started this initiative in the year 79. He has since passed on. And the objective to serve the incarcerated community. And so we are a charter member of this association here in Malaysia. We are a Christian faith-based organization, but we are not faith-biased. All right? We are faith-based, but not faith-biased. We serve the incarcerated community, to anyone and everyone, whenever we have the opportunity to do it. And so in Malaysia, in Prison Fellowship Malaysia, we work with the three pillars of our ministry. Number one is, of course, prison care. And that is physically walking into the prisons. And so every week we have volunteers that actually walk into the prisons. We have classes that run in all the prisons. In those classes, we teach about hope. We teach about, the chances available, second chance. We teach them how to live responsibly. And basically, helping them to see things from a different point of view. And some of the pictures that you see are what we have done there in the places. Some of it is in Pahang. This is in Pahang, Bentong, actually. And our approach is open doors for us to do some celebrations there. And so that's one of the things that we do with prison care, have classes. Other than that, we also engage with the prisons. Now, the photo that you are seeing here is actually one of our initiatives. As you know, soap is a basic hygiene product needed in prisons. Sometimes the needs are greater than supplies. And so this was an initiative done by us to teaching them in an institution in Negeri Sembilan how to make soap from used cooking oil. This was like a pilot project, training all these guys who were there how to make it. And so we taught them about safety, the safety apparel, how to follow an SOP, how to, sort of do things in an SOP standard kind of a way, just to teach them, to get them a floor of it. It was quite successful. We had so many groups of boys who did it quite well, actually. They were learning to do this. And I think in some sense, we're also teaching them that in the outside world, it's going to be like this. It's actually, it's going to be some SOPs out there, some standards must be there. And so it's a little bit of assisting them also for the future world. And we hope to do this more now. We hope to duplicate this process in a bigger level. This was done in a very pilot level. It worked. We got the soaps out. And so now we are thinking about moving it to a greater level so that an institution can have a supply of soap done by its own people within. And this is one of our initiatives, the hygiene basis. Of course, we have also other initiatives that we have going on in the prison. We have, I'm not sure the picture is here, but we have done a computer lab in a prison. This is a soap. These are some of those pictures inside of how the prison environment looks like. They come for our classes. This is what the pictures that you are seeing. This is the women's prison. This is how they conduct the classes in these big cells, as you see it. All right. There's a computer picture. I'm not sure it's here or not. We did a lab. We did a computer lab in a prison in Negeri Sembilan. We actually furnished that place up. We have put in 10 computers, furnish up the whole place. One of our volunteers, a degree holder, he volunteered to be a trainer. And what we are doing in that prison is basically training inmates on the use of computers. Very basic. It's a 4 to 5 month course. You learn the basics of computers. You learn Microsoft Excel, Word, and PowerPoint, and basically trying to give them skills actually. And so that when they come out of the prison, they have something with them, some skill set that, makes them a little bit more marketable when they come out of the job, Of course, they have to pick up the rest, but this is just an initiative that, hey, Let's build them up. So first group of 10 people completed the course. They graduated. A second group is going on now. I think they're finishing in October. They will graduate, and then we will start again. And the whole idea is that to assist and help them when they come out, that they will have a little bit edge as far as job opportunities are concerned. That is on computer labs. Uh, of course, we also support them on basic essentials in the prisons. We get donors to do it for us. We have women in prison who have children with them. Women in prison, they're allowed to keep their child with them until the age of 3. And this is one of those sights that I've seen in prison. It's very painful to see. Painful to see women with prison uniform holding a toddler in their hand. It has been not easy for me even to look at it, but that is the situation there. And so we have assisted one prison to start up a play area, a place where children can actually come and have a playpen kind of an area with some toys, some slides, something like that. And so just to give some so that the child can have some holistic kind of a growth. I can't imagine a child actually in a prison cell. I just cannot imagine that. My grandson, he runs here, runs there, but so trying to assist in some area. Of course, we want to repeat this in many other prisons. We need resources for this, but in ways to help them in this. One of the requests that I've had in one of the prisons from the social welfare officer was that asking me, can you help with women hygienic products, And that was a real request for them. And so we also embarked on this, looking for donors for us to say, hey, can we send this to the women prisons? They need it really. And so we try to supply to them some essentials along the way. And sometimes they have other needs, they inform us, and we try our best to give it to them, to support them while they are in the prison. In terms of job opportunities, we have been accredited as a strategic partner with the Prisons Department for an initiative called Corporate Smart Internship, CSI. That is basically working with the corporate sector to allow inmates in prison to work outside, and have an employment outside, while they actually have a sentence over them, but to allow them to work outside. So currently we are with employers, talking to employers on this, together with the prisons department, asking them to explore the possibility of, hey, can you help out these people? Can you give them a job? Can you do something for them? And, if they're good, you can keep on retaining them. You have a trained workforce with you. And so that is helping them in some sense that, hey, there's a job for you. One of the prison's intention is that by the year 2030, 2/3 of the prison population should actually be in community rehab. And, you were right on the statistics that the percentage of repeated crime offenders over a 3-year period is about 17% for those who are rehabilitated in institutions. While those that have come out to actually be in outside community, that percentage is actually less than 0.5%. And shows a tremendous difference that when people are out, they find purpose, they find direction, that something happens to them in that transforming. And that's why the prison initiative is saying 2/3, because it's where the community must come in to assist them and help them. So that is the work that we do in prison care, caring for them while in prison. Our second pillar is, of course, on family care. It's very hard when the breadwinner is inside the prison. It's very hard for mothers with child and single. We all know the pain and struggle of it. We try to assist wherever we can to provide social support wherever possible to assist them in this trying period. Another initiative that we have is basically, we call it Changing Lives Initiative, and that is to ensure that children of prisoners actually continue education. And that is, so we support the children of prisoners. I think we have roughly around less than 10 children that we are supporting all over Malaysia. We support them monthly. The idea is that to help them, assist them for tuition, for schooling methods, we want to see them graduate. The danger is that always that, education becomes a risk, really. We've got cases where students are unable to continue education because the home needs finances, and so they have to sacrifice that. and stay at home and become a factory worker or do some other odd job, and then we have lost them. We are trying not to do that. We're trying by this way to assist them. We hope in the days to come we'll have some graduates from this scheme, who have broken the poverty, cycle of poverty, and stand out as good examples that even though it has been bad against them, that they will survive. And so it is hoped this venture, this is all about children of prisoners. Of course, as they come out, this is aftercare. What happens when they come out of prison? The most difficult moment for them, the most dangerous moment for them. Well, we have these halfway houses, we call it. We call it a second chance home. We have one of ours in Kuantan, and people are sent there, especially when they come out of the prison. They are sent to these homes just to get some space for themselves, just to rethink about life, and get a grip of themselves. They're not ready to just go back into society, so they need some space. And these homes help us. Of course, we are not have enough homes. We hope in the days to come we can have more homes. But those out of prison have a place to rethink about life, get some good values. We also think about them as they come out. Not everybody is structured for a disciplined environment, sadly.
Mm.
I was speaking to a payroll officer, and he was saying that many that come out are not tuned for a structured discipline. 8 o'clock you come to work, 9:15 you come, 1 o'clock, this kind of thing. But some of them have skill sets. Some skill sets they have. We are thinking about, hey, can we do some entrepreneur projects for them? There's some way we can assist them to have a self-sustaining business for them in a very small scale. We had a chef before in the prison. He was a chef. He worked overseas as a chef, and and he came out. He's in trouble. And when he came out, we were trying to actually try to build a stall for him. We're trying to look for a stall for him, set him up somewhere, support him for say 6 months. Hopefully, he will have a business that is self-sustaining. Unfortunately, he left us, so we lost an opportunity to make a difference in his life. But these are things that we think about as we go ahead. How do we help these people? So in a nutshell, this is what we cover for this incarcerated community. Now, there's about 82,000, based on the recent newspaper, there's about 82,000 people in the prisons.
Mm.
And if each person has a 5-member family, we are talking about 400,000 people outside in the community who have been affected by crime, who have been affected by the actions of these people. And these are the indirect people, 400,000 in our community. Now, this does not include the direct victims of crime, which is again another figure.
Mm.
Can you imagine the amount of people in our communities that is hurt, that is wounded? It's a big amount of people. And they need help. They need help. I've sat in homes, talking to families. Believe me, when one of their family members is incarcerated, it is a terrible time for the family. It's as though the whole world has gone upside down. They cannot make sense of it. The financial cost, the strain, the stress, not to mention that fault finding for them. It's a struggle. I sat with homes, I see them with their tears. They cannot make sense of what happened. They are a hurt community there. And so we have a community outside that is equally hurt. So 82,000 is a figure of prisoners who are inside, and yet we have people who are outside. And we are so thankful to the many who are actually assisting this community outside. There are many nameless people. There are many people, helping them in their journey back, because it has been a very painful journey. And so Prison Fellowship's work is what we do in prison care, in family care, in aftercare. The whole idea behind is that, we hope to see offenders being transformed, empowered, back to a life, back to society. We hope to see that families are reconciled. There's a tremendous breakdown of families when this happens. And of course, ultimately, we hope to see communities being restored also in this whole process. So there's a community healing that also comes in this whole process. And so we are part of this work that we do, an overview of what we are doing in Prison Fellowship Malaysia. Any questions here?
I think you've just for those who are listening and watching, right? I think you've probably just explained why our topic today is community engagement for well-being of the nation. Because I think generally, right, when we think about inmates, people, who have made mistakes or committed crimes, it's not easy to empathize. It's not easy to understand the world unless you have someone in your family who's experienced that, right?
Mm.
Because we've experienced it. And I think what you've beautifully highlighted, and we hope that it goes out, why this is our job, why this is our responsibility, right, as a community. Because I think, like what you rightly said, right, I think the number 80,000 is 80,000 times 5, which is 400,000 people that is impacted. I think is a number that's like sitting in my heart, not just because of the numbers, but because of the stories and the impact in the way we treat people, which is why I think you talk about wounded people, and I think we need to think rehab and not punish, right? And I think that needs compassion, that needs empathy, that needs a big heart, basically, right? For us to think that way, because it's so easy to become logical, right? And point the finger and say, well, you made your choice, now you pay the price, lah, right? And so thank you for doing this work, and thank you for doing such great work, because I think what we want to do is that I think we want to highlight and understand, because I do know that, so if you look on live, we probably have quite a number of people who are interested listening to this, and this simply tells how our heart wants to contribute, right? We all want to contribute. And I think you walked before us, showing us the path, how we all, in our own little ways, can shift the way we think, have more compassion, and treat people better, right? And you've also highlighted to us the problems that we're trying to solve. We're trying to solve the problems for the inmates, right? But tell us a little bit more, right? Because I think we probably, I'm not even sure whether we have a glimpse of what's happening. Maybe you can help us understand a little bit more, and empathize by telling us what are some challenges of the life of inmates, that we may not understand. Because from the outside world, because one of those things that I really reflected in our pre-conversation is when you actually highlighted how lost people are when they come out, and how the support from the community and from the families is so important for them to find their grounding in it. Maybe you can just tell us a bit more to help us understand how people get lost in there.
Okay. Well, there's a big spectrum on this. There's no one answer for all. I met a guy in an institution who has been in the institution. He has come in for the ninth time. The ninth time, and I'm like, and asked him, and what are you doing here for the ninth time? And now the answer that he gave me was that, I'm lonely outside. He just used that one word and said, I'm very lonely outside. What he was trying to tell me was, there's nothing outside for him. There is no home to go to. There's no family to love him. There's actually nothing outside. And so he find that inside he's got his friends inside. Here he's got a life inside. And very sad to see that, because I think he's struggling on the outside because people view with suspicion. People always view them with a lot of suspicion, and they prefer not to relate with them. But this is just one of those cases. The other cases where sometimes, for men especially, fathering has failed, sadly, for men. For men, fathering is so important. Sometimes fathering has really failed them. So it's affected them, it's affected them. I've seen in one institution, we had a father and son in the same institution. How terrible can that be? I've seen another institution, a young boy, and you ask him his father, and his father is in another institution. It's a terrible cycle, they call it a cycle. The cycle of crime goes on in the home and family. And of course, some have made bad choices in their life, willfully, knowingly. Some happen to be in the wrong place, wrong time, wrong company, kind of a thing, So there's no one answer that fits all. But some of the families we have met, I mean, they just can't understand what happened. The families cannot comprehend what has happened. They said we have done everything right, and yet they cannot comprehend what is happening. And so spectrum is so different inside, so different inside. They are broken, they are wounded, they need healing. Apart from all of this outside, we know, deep down inside their heart, they've got lost along the journey. They've got lost outside along the journey. And that's a sad thing. So we are there to help them find their way back. I've got some stories on this, but maybe later on. But, we have to assisting them to find their way back. It is painful to hear. It is inside to painful to hear these stories. But we are there to bring hope. In the midst of all this sadness, we are there to bring this word hope, that you can turn around. There is hope for you. You can have a second chance, and people are outside are willing to help you and to give them that kind of a thing for living. So for families outside, I remember our volunteers trying to call the parents of the people who are incarcerated. The parents answered back and said, "Let him be. Don't call us and disturb us." And you know how painful that is. And what is the word to tell him? Huh? It's very hard for us also. But there's a total breakdown. There is a breakdown. That's why the ultimate aim is for families to be reconciled. While we look at the offenders being transformed, it doesn't stop there. It must move on to reconciliation back to his family. That only will affect the community. So that is a big step towards us. So we don't have one answer that fits all, because it's also different in my experience.
Yeah. Correct. I've got a follow-up question, and there's also a question that's put on the chat. Before that, let me say hello to Grace Chang. Hello, great to see you all. Great to see you too, Grace. If you have questions, please put that question down. GD Naidu, whom Mallory called out to on LinkedIn. Okay, it was more, I don't know whether it was a call, siren call or a summons or something like that, but it was a call. Worked. The man is here. He has a question. So, GD, can I just hold off to your questions for a while, because I have a follow-up question. Your question is important, and I would bring that up in a short while, right? Stanley, I want to go back to so there's this loss of connection. They come back. A lot of time the reoffending is based on lack of connection outside and the connection that they find inside. Okay. Why sometimes do they have a lack of connection outside? Because people cannot reconcile the thing that they have done, right? I recently had a question thrown in I'm taking a diploma program, and the question was thrown to us about a moral conflict. Now, being a man of God, you have a way of thinking around how to think about it, and you've got a higher purpose as to why you're doing the work that you do. Okay, for many of us, we are guided by our morals, our values, right? And when there is a clash, so in this case, there's a clash. You have a family member, and there's a clash, right? Of this is how I think good values. This is how morally we should behave. And here I have a son, a daughter, mother, father who has gone against that. How would you help a person who's to reconcile that? So that when, to think about, how do you help us think about this differently? In this case, it's because of a offender, but it can work in other situations as well. How do you think through it?
Yeah. You see, in these cases, I mean, the situation today is there is so much of help around. There's a lot of help around. It's not like those days where you had little. There's so much of help around. Sometimes a basic counseling is enough. Sometimes it is not. People need to be sent out for professional counseling sometimes. There is so many ways to address depending on what the circumstances and the situation is. The only thing that the family members need to do is to be able to say, we give a chance. Let's give a chance. That's the only thing they need to say, that, hey, let's not close the door. Let's give a chance, And I think once they've closed the door, that this guy cannot be brought back, once they've closed the door like that, it makes it so difficult, and I think it's just to leave a door open, that, hey, let's give him a chance. Sometimes we have to send some of them who've come out of prison, in a bad addiction problem. We recommend them to actually go to real rehab centers because they have an addiction problem. We recommend go there, spend 2 years there, and you come out. Some of those, we have to say, you go to a second chance home, you stay there for some time, you learn to evaluate things. So there are many ways to do this, depending on every circumstance that we face. But I think as far as the family members, I know it's very painful. Believe me, it's so painful for family members, to be hurt, to be wounded. But the ability to give a chance. I've got people who say, why do you bother about these people? Why do you bother about these prisoners? I mean, they deserve it. They are there as a consequence of the action. They deserve it. And maybe they are right to some extent, but I say they deserve to know about second chance also. They deserve to know that life can turn around. They deserve to know that they can make it. They deserve to know, right? So the same way with family members, even though I've been in many homes in this matter, and it is painful, but to bring them to that process of, hey, let's believe. Let's believe for second chances. Just believe. And I think in most cases, whenever a door is open, it helps in this process of reconciling. Of course, families have their moral values and, so strict and stern. Sometimes it doesn't work out. I've been in homes where they've got so much of standards that they're built in. And when anybody fails, it's so difficult to come back in because they've got so much of standards built in. And it's very hard to speak to them, to say, hey, come on, he's your son, he's your daughter. This is not somebody, this is your flesh and blood. Can you just give him a chance? Leave the door open. Help may come in so many different ways and different sources, but leave the door open. And I think we tell all our volunteers also, indirectly, and as you know, many walk away from us despite of all the help that we want to give them. One of the unwritten rules that we have within our volunteers, which I try to emphasize, hey, let's leave the door open. Even if they come back to us, hey, let's try again. If they walk away from us and come back again, hey, let's just try again. Let's always leave the door open. It's a life we are talking about here. And I think in families, there's something that is needed. Just leave the door open for hope. Leave the door open for miracles. Leave the door open that impossibles can take place. Don't close that door. I've seen too many families that close the door and say, that's it, no more. No, I encourage the families, leave it open. That's my view on seeing things like
that. The consequence and punishment have shelf lives as well. There's an expiry date on consequence and punishment. After some time, it doesn't justify, the consequence doesn't justify the crime that was, committed in the same sense to a certain degree. Okay, Malar, you're flagging.
No, I'm not. So I thought we'll go to GD's question because
Yes.
we've got about good 10 minutes, right? GD Naidu asks, he'd like to hear your thoughts. How does community engagement impact mental health and well-being of inmates during and after their incarceration? Okay, I got the word right.
All right.
I think you partly answered this just now. If you want to just quickly, directly, in a very short one, because the next question is a heavyweight, right? There's another heavyweight question coming up. So,
community engagement definitely impacts them. They find some purpose. I told you that those in the community, their repeat offending rate is 0.5%. Something has happened to them outside. They found purpose. They found responsibility given to them. And overall, I think there's been a shift in them, in that sense. We, of course, for training purposes, our volunteers, we do train them on basic mental health so that they have some bit of understanding when they are inside for it. But we really don't have time to focus on the individual one-to-one. But in general view, we do that as best we can. And once they're out, then it's always personal counseling that is required. We have to do it on a one-to-one basis. So generally, we try our best to do it. that's the only thing that we can do. But once they are in a working environment or something, the situation, some companies have trainings for them, a lot of things are done, and they pick up and learn along the journey, by themselves. So I think that community engagement, because everybody's contributing now, everybody's playing a small portion in this, and I think it's going to help each one of them in some way. And that is important. Mental health is, is a big thing, but to shift mindsets, it's not easy to bring. But hope is something important. I find hope, when there's a hope given, it shifts a person's thinking quite well. To find purpose in life, to find that reason. And I think those are very powerful things, even though small, quite powerful. It was a lot of shift, and people around to help you these days. That's my view on that. It definitely helps them.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm going to go on to the next question GD has asked. I think basically, as human beings, we need hope. Yeah. And that needs to be provided by everybody. What are the challenges, he asked, faced by marginalized inmate population, ethnic minorities, LGBTQ, and individuals? And how can communities be more inclusive in supporting them?
All right. I think this is also one of the questions we had here to talk about challenges faced by outsider challenges. I think number one, we have to overcome this thing called prejudice. We really have to overcome something called prejudice. People struggle with punitive versus rehab. The old method was punitive. Now we have to talk about rehab. And so people struggle with these issues. Number two is, of course, that there's a concern with how genuine they are. And I think there's always be a concern about how genuine these people are, that we want to support them. But that's a risk we take, in life. We want to help. We want to show what is right in their lives. We just do that. We're all very fearful of this, and nothing gets done. We got to move on. We have to move on. We touch lives that way. Of course, some people see this as very unfair also, that, hey, how come we are giving so much of opportunities to these people, whereas the opportunities for others are not there. They see it in a very different way. But, the impact of crime is on communities finally. So we need to assist them and help them so that the community will become safe. Over time, the community is going to benefit from this, And there's another side of it where, people feel that sometimes the focus is more on the offenders rather than the actual victims and the community, now I'm talking to you about the focus of offenders now. And they feel that, hey, how come the focus is less on the victims of crime and the community? There's something called, the term is called restorative justice. It's a term that we use. We know about the criminal justice system. Another term is called restorative justice. And restorative justice is an approach that seeks to repair the harm that has been done to a victim. All right, that's called restorative justice. It's a school by itself, it's a branch by itself. It focuses a lot on the victim. I've been for seminars on it. I know there's some seminars going on here off and on this topic. How well Malaysia has concretely come into it or is going into it. Currently, I've not so have the idea. I think people in the legal profession have it. But restorative justice focuses on an individual, the victim. It will focus on a victim, and that's, I think, something that should be good coming up, because we are trying to get the offender to take responsibility for his action. In this restorative justice process, it's trying to get an offender to take responsibility for his action. Number two, we are trying to help him understand the harm that he has done by his action. And he has done harm, and he has to figure it out that he has done harm and to realize it, the harm. Third, of course, is to, how can he redeem himself? Is there an opportunity for him to redeem himself for the injustice that he has done? Finally, is, of course, to ensure it's not done again. This is roughly the scope of this thing called restorative justice. I think it's in the pipeline, and hopefully it'll come soon. And so I think as outsiders, these are generally some of our challenges which we need to overcome. As I said, every person is somebody's son. Every person is a mother and a father. I was telling Mala the other day, I was in a prison, one person's inside. You see the whole family there, all affected. To see the children running around, and you wonder what are children doing in a prison compound running around. They should be in a playground, but damage done. And I think it's all of us to play our part, to stretch out our hand. As a writer says, try to be a light, try to be a rainbow in someone else's cloud. All of us play a part in a little ways. And I think when community comes in, we will see a shift. And that's our ultimate aim, that community is healed, restored, finally, for the safety for everyone. That's my view on this. I hope it helped in some way to answer the question.
Well, I don't think it's an easy question to answer, but what I'm taking back from you is that I think, yeah, you are focused on working with the inmates for sure, which is good. But at the same time, we know that work has to be to restore people's wound. Everyone who's wounded in the system, besides the inmates, are the people who actually have hurt people, right? We also have people who are wounded, which is what you're talking about, the 400,000 people, right? The
Mm.
families are also wounded by actions, right? And also the direct victims. So I think work needs to be done at every level. I think we are aware of that, which then brings us back to why this work is important, right? Because and that's why, and for those who are still with us, this is why we are having a panel on the 13th of November with PFM, that is Prison Fellowship Malaysia, and the prison ministry. And we also have on board an employer who employs to share the experience. Now, why? Because for all the factors that Stanley has brought in and many other things that we don't have time to talk about, I think we need to be led to think why compassion is important. How do we actually put in processes and structures in a system to make it as successful as it can be? So it's not one action, but we need leadership mindset and leadership decision making and leadership action to do that, which is why we have Stanley sharing his thoughts, his mindset as the national director for PFM, right? So and I think this conversation is important, right?
Yeah.
And we need to get back and have this conversation. And that's why, for those who are here, if you haven't signed up, sign up for our conference on the 13th. And Becky has come to say, I just have one more thing to say. Becky has said, "Hi, ladies and Stanley. Thank you for sharing your insights. Very interesting topic." And she says, "Very interesting insights in today's topic." Yeah. And coming back to, why we met you when we talk about the SMART initiative, right? SMART initiative is very much about how do we to restore. It is really important economically. People are grounded. People who come out of the prison can find a job, can get back to lives, and hopefully reconciliation just becomes a little bit easier, a lot more easier, right? And what Stanley is looking for is really what PFM is doing, is looking for potential employers who want to give this a chance, right? And it's very, very well curated, I must say. I've looked at some of their papers, very well curated. And at the same time, right, Stanley, you said you need community engagement, because besides awareness, we can also volunteer with our skills in whatever we are good at, like the guy who teaches computer, right? And hearts and minds, we have said, if we can get a group of people, we can actually help them on getting ready with skill sets to work in a call center, for example. So if you have skill sets that you can offer, get in touch with PFM. I'll put their website on the comment. Get connected with the team and just offer whatever that you can offer with your time in life, right? So with that, I think we are almost at 7. Stanley, is there anything else you'd like to tell people before we say our goodbyes?
Can I share a story?
Sure, please.
Yeah. This happened in an institution, right? I was there. It was an event. I spoke and everything, and the event is over. This was all a teenage group. The event is over, and when they were going back, I actually put out my hand, to shake their hand. And the first guy who came, he refused to shake my hand. There I
Mm.
was with my hand out, and he refused to shake my hand. He got me in a jam actually. The officer was there. He looked at me as though something happened there, and there was I with my hand out. But the guy who came out actually, the only thing that he wanted from me was just a hug.
Oh.
He just came and gave me a hug.
Mm.
I realized that the only thing that meant to him was a simple hug. And after that, nobody shaking hand. Everybody just wanted a hug. A
Oh.
simple hug. And I thought that all my words actually may not have meant much, but maybe the simple hug would have made a
Mm.
lot of difference to them, that you're loved,
Mm.
you're cared. On the
Mm.
journey back, I was wondering to myself, when was the last time I actually hugged my wife and my children and told them I love you? Or was I always too busy?
Mm.
And so I began to learn something from that is always good to affirm. And of course, when the children are small, you can hug them and kiss them and do anything. But when they're a bit bigger, it's not so easy. But where actions fail, words can. And the power of words to affirm, reaffirm. And I think it's a basic human need for every person to be loved, to be cared for. And that day that I just saw that all my words won't mean anything. The hug meant everything to them. And to go back, see them going back with a smiling face was wow, something really very touching for me. Just to share one of the stories, my stories.
I think your
Thank
words did mean a lot to them, and that's why you got the hug. Thank you, Stanley.
Thank you so much.
We're going to move you to the backstage so that we can close the
Sure.
show. Right?
Thank
Thank
you
you very
all.
much for joining us once again.
Thank you all. Thank you. Bye.
You want
Thank
to
you
put
very,
some?
very. Yeah.
You want to put something out, Malar?
No, I think GD Naidu said, thank you for sharing. Looking forward to attending the next session in November. I'm not sure which session, but whichever session, GD, we look forward to having you because you asked the most challenging question and the question that need to be asked, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
So,
mm.
yep. You're saying something?
Yeah. So just to close, I think so I mean it was really great having Stanley and how Stanley and his team actually have shaped one panel, which is really inspiring to actually listen to how
Mm.
leaders think about the work that needs to be done, but that is difficult and that's got great criticism, right? And that's what we're doing
Correct.
at the panel. But
Mm.
before we close, I today I posted something on the Red Park. I don't know whether you had a chance to read, and I want to leave the audience with that, right? So there was this experiment that was done. So they had a group of rats, right? Rats and human beings, anyway. So they put them in a cage like a park, right? Empty, right? And they had water and they had drug, which is dopamine dose, right? For them,
Mm.
motivation, right? And so, of course, the question is, which one do you think the rats went for? The rats went for the drugs, and they
Mm.
were addicted. All right. And then what they did, the same group of rats, what they did is they built a garden for the rats.
Mm.
And then they put the water and the drugs.
Mm.
Which one did the rats go for? Water. Mostly water.
Mm.
So I think the whole ideas and that really got me thinking. A lot of times, I think whether it's addiction or getting making wrong choices, right? A lot of times it's very easy to point finger, but I think this one for me is the power of having being involved in life,
Mm.
right? Actually help us to make healthy choices. And that's what I really think Stanley and the team are trying to do. Because can you imagine a prison? It is really empty. And what they're trying to do, because they can't bring the world out, they're trying to bring the world in and create a park for them so that they become more engaged and involved in life, so that they will then hopefully make healthy choices while they are there, help them to transition out into life while they are there, come out, and hopefully, that becomes the reconciliation and healing of the community at large. And I think
Mm.
this just doesn't belong to people who are in the prison. I think all of us make mistakes. It's just that we're
Yes.
not, all of us have addictive habits, right? All of, hurt people, and our choices and decision impact people, the five other people in your families, and we all want not a second chance, but we all want another chance. So with that, I want to thank everybody who are still with us. Thank you very much. I really hope you would give your time and love to community engagement in any way that your heart calls to. With that, this is Malar signing off from Malaysia. Good
Malaysia.
night.